Washington's game plan on Monday night has to be less about who's missing and more about exploiting the matchups they have left on the field against the Chicago Bears. That and more right now on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Commanders. I'm David Harrison, your guy on the ground covering the Washington Commanders for WUSA 9, right here with you 5 days a week. And you can also find me writing about the Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. You can follow me on X at DHarrison82. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or your first view. To the everydayers out there, those of you who come through for every single episode, a special thank you to you for coming through for yet another one today. Coming up on today's episode, we are going to discuss our bets and our fantasy must-start of the week. We're also going to discuss our three-pronged defensive plan for the Washington Commanders. But first, the path to victory runs on the ground in Northwest Stadium on Monday night. All of that coming up. Part of today's episode of Locked On Commanders, proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And it's brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when we make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for the highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward with Mazda. Move and be moved. The loss of two key receivers, the continued loss of two key receivers, the non-return of Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown, really kind of simplifies things for the Washington Commanders this weekend against the Chicago Bears, Monday night against Chicago Bears. And I think that it gives us our clear three keys to a victory when the Washington Commanders host Chicago Bears in Northwest Stadium, wearing the battle blacks. And if you haven't heard already, the Washington Commanders request that if you are attending the game, that you wear all black. That's what they want to do. They want to create that atmosphere. Certainly looking forward to it. It's going to be an electric atmosphere, I expect, in a sold-out Northwest Stadium. So Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, not playing in this game. Terry McLaurin, we kind of got there to that point that we at least understood that he probably wasn't going to be playing in this game pretty early on in the week. Noah Brown was practicing, so there was some hope that he would be able to come back. But unfortunately, entering the weekend, Dan Quinn ruled both of them out, just said they weren't ready, certainly making some progress. All these kinds of things. There have been some questions brought up about why Noah Brown wasn't placed on IR. He's now missed 4 games. He was injured originally in the game against the Green Bay Packers. And, you know, I'm sure that this is something that Dan Quinn's probably going to get asked about here in the next couple of days. But the answer I can offer up, what probably is the answer, is a simple matter of the injury that he has was just not a slam dunk that he was going to miss 4 weeks. And they didn't want to take away any possible weeks that he might be able to come back. So you leave the door open week to week for him to recover as he needs to and potentially come back in that week 3 or in that fourth week potentially, which would have been this week. And, you know, these things aren't necessarily predictable and et cetera, et cetera. And also they have enough receivers that, you know, Dan Quinn's probably going to lean on that 70-man roster like he has before. And the practice squad call-ups that they have for guys like Tay Martin and things like that. And the fact that they just simply didn't necessarily need to bring another wide receiver either from the practice squad or from the free agent market onto the active roster, which they can only do by putting Noah Brown on IR. That's just what I think is probably going to happen, is what makes the most sense as far as what Dan Quinn is going to say. But the bottom line is, without those two receivers coming back, still without those two receivers for yet another game, I think clearly the path to victory for the Washington Commanders in week 6 is the same path that it was there in week 5, should have been there in week 4, was there in week 3, and that is control the game, control the ball, run the clock, run the ball. Even though the Washington Commanders haven't necessarily won the time of possession battle, that has been the way that they've won all of these games without Terry McLaurin, or these couple of games without Terry McLaurin, or been in position to win these games, I should say, without Terry McLaurin. And I think key matchup number 1, we're going to start right there for this game, is that interior offensive line. The Washington Commanders interior offensive line, center Tyler Biadasz, and the 2 guards, Chris Paul on the left side, Andrew Wiley on the right side, and Sam Cosmi is not going to return for this game either. Against those Bears defensive tackles, guys like Javon Dexter Sr. and Andrew Billings, those matchups are actually going to be key to this Washington Commanders victory because between the 20s, I think you got to do that. You have to start testing that interior defense immediately from snap number 1 You've got power running concepts like halfback duo, a power running play where there's 2 double team blocks, right? So you've got 2 double teams. 4 of your offensive linemen are joining forces to double team 2 defensive linemen, push them out of the way, create a lane, and then you have some pullers. Sometimes you have different things going on to try to get the back to the second level. You can do that with Chris Rodriguez Jr., who missed a lot of practice this week, but he is active for this game, or at least he's expected to be, I should say. We don't know if he's going to be game day active, depending on how things are going with his injury, but he's at least eligible, I should say, to play the game. Or you do Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, Jeremy McNichols, whatever you want to do. I think that halfback duo is certainly a good way to establish the tone, set the tone, and take control early on in the game. You also have inside zone runs, another running play where the linemen basically block an area, hence the word zone, instead of a specific defender. Clear out your area, make sure the path is open, whatever you need to do to establish that run game. The Washington Commanders come into the weekend with the NFL's #1 rushing attack, averaging over 150 yards rushing per game. Need to take advantage of that, especially without those receivers back. But even when they come back, that tune's not going to change. I'm going to want to see this team establish the ground game pretty much here on out for the rest of the season, to be quite honest with you. In the red zone specifically, you want to see them also lean on their power run game, because it's going to create high percentage scoring opportunities, I should say, not putting the ball necessarily in jeopardy by throwing it, but also it's going to set up play action opportunities. We've all seen games where you end up with a running play and then the quarterback, rolls out or drops back and there's a tight end or a receiver kind of just wide open, and you kind of go, how does nobody cover that guy? Well, the reason nobody covered that guy is because that defense sold out against the run, because the team they're going up against was running the ball so effectively. So again, just impact the run, do those things, and it opens up the door for other things like tight end Zach Ertz. Our second key matchup is going to be Ertz against the Bears linebackers when in coverage, when calling pass plays. And again, to create those explosives, use those play actions, and you can use those play actions to roll out. You can have Jaden Daniels bootlegging, doing all those kinds of things, isolate Zach Ertz on crossing routes, get those linebackers collapsing in on a run, get Zach Ertz open behind them where they're supposed to be, and you open the door for big plays and potential touchdowns in the red zone specifically. The Bears linebackers have been a known weakness, especially in man coverage against athletic tight ends. Zach Ertz a little bit older, but using that play action, using that quarterback mobility, those are kinds of things you can kind of emphasize or enhance, I should say, Zach Ertz's remaining ability to get him some mismatches and some opportunities. On third down, right now, the Commanders are only converting 32.7% of their third down opportunities. Absolutely terrible rating. Quick passes, screens that incorporate the tight end, potentially those types of things are going to be key to helping the Washington Commanders stay ahead of the sticks. And finally, our third matchup on offense, Washington's offensive tackles. Mostly your right tackle, Josh Harnley Jr., rookie, against defensive end Montez Sweat. Washington fans, Montez Sweat very well. Protecting quarterback Jaden Daniels against Sweat is going to be absolutely critical. Running back screens are going to help that. Chip blocks are going to help that. Tight end screens, receiver screens, all those screens are going to help that kind of stuff. But also, you can use quarterback runs. You can use that read. Jaden Daniels reads Montez, reads the other end, reads whoever he needs to read, makes the right play, or makes the right decision, as he usually does. Take advantage of their aggression as well to stay out of second and third and long. And the X factor, finally, on offense is going to be those offensive tackles just in general. Obviously, neutralizing Montez Sweat is going to be a big part of this. But if the tackles can win their battles one-on-one, start to free up some opportunities, not have to keep guys in to chip, not have to keep guys in to help block, things like that, it's only going to help the Washington Commanders offense, give Jaden Daniels more targets, put more people in conflict in the defense, and give him opportunities to run or pass as we go. So the Washington offense is going to be a little bit more simplified, like we've seen the last couple of weeks without Terry, without Noah coming back yet. And the approach to win is going to rely on some of those key matchups. On the defensive side, they've got to do a lot of the same. Simplify things against your opponent. Keep things simple for them to not let their explosive quarterback take control of the game. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you in part by Mizzen and Main. You know the saying, look good, feel good? Well, we just talked about the Commanders having to win with a physical, gritty, in the trenches type of dominant game plan. It's not always pretty, but you still have to look professional while you're doing it. The problem is Most dress clothes today only check one of those boxes. They look sharp, but they feel stiff, they feel hot, and they're high maintenance. That is where Mizzen and Main come in. Mizzen and Main make classic menswear with performance fabric, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they've been working ever since to perfect it. Their shirts are stretchy, moisture wicking, wrinkle resistant, and machine washable. No ironing, no dry cleaning. For me, traveling with the team, that is a game changer. It's the feel of athletic wear, but the look of professional menswear. So you always look your best without the hassle. Right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-A-I-N.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL20 for 20% off. This episode is also brought to you in part by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. This week's moment that moved the game forward was undoubtedly safety Quan Martin's forced fumble against the Los Angeles Chargers. In a tight game at the time, the defense needed a spark. They got to do something to create a little bit of energy. Martin came up on a crucial third down play, made a perfect tackle and perfect hit on a receiver, punched the ball right out of the runner's hands before he went down. Marshawn Lattimore was on the spot to scoop it up. That single play, that extra effort completely changed the game's trajectory. Head coach Dan Quinn said following the game, quote, "That was the one. That's the one that that needed to take place." I thought Quan really led the day with his play. Everyone fed off of that, end quote. The offense took the field and scored soon after. That's the definition of complementary football, and that is how you move the game forward. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only beginning, and just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda move and be moved. The defense's plan to stop Chicago Bears quarterback Caleb Williams isn't necessarily going to be exotic. It's not going to be about being super crazy. It's just about winning 3 specific matchups and being disciplined in your execution. No penalties on defense is huge. Doing that again against the Chicago Bears would be great and a great way to make sure that you don't give an offense that can be dangerous and a quarterback who can be dangerous opportunities to do so when you've stopped them and you've kept them from being dangerous, just to keep with the theme, on their own. So the defensive strategy has to be about forcing Caleb Williams to operate within the structure of the offense, take away his primary target, collapse the pocket with just 4 rushers if you can, contain his improvisation. Don't let those second plays be where he beats you, because Caleb Williams, just like Jaden Daniels, just like a lot of quarterbacks, those are some of the moments where he shines the most, is in those second plays, those extended plays. When the first play breaks down, they keep the play alive, and you find those second opportunities. If the Washington Commanders rush effectively, collapse that pocket around him, don't let him escape, don't let him create those second plays, that is going to be the way to best handle Caleb Williams. Easier said than done, right? But let's going to start with the key matchups. Key matchup number 1, cornerback Marshawn Lattimore against wide receiver DJ Moore. This matchup is the Commanders' top corner, at least by veteran status and reputation overall, against the Chicago Bears' primary deep threat. I think the plan here needs to be bracket coverage on DJ Moore. If you're Quan Martin, you're going to kind of cheat to that side. You're going to let Marshawn Lattimore play physical, but understanding that physical play could lead to DJ Moore getting on top of Marshawn Lattimore. Quan Martin needs to be on the spot when he can be to make sure that he gets there. But the Commanders do like to play that aggressive style of a largely cover 3 offense, a lot of fire zone, things like that, which leaves single high safeties, which is going to put Marshawn Lattimore kind of on the spot. So when you can give him help, but when you can't, Marshawn's just got to make sure he plays smart and make sure he plays aggressive, but make sure he plays an intelligent brand of aggressive football to avoid just sort of getting burned by Marshawn Lattimore. One thing that can help them is pressure. NASCAR packages. A lot of times we talk about pressure. NASCAR packages your pass rush front, usually your front 4, and it's going to be a little bit of a smaller, faster type of front. Maybe you're going to bring a stunt. You're going to drop one guy off. You're going to bring simulated pressure, drop a lineman into coverage, bring a linebacker like Bobby Wagner, try to confuse the Chicago Bears interior offensive line, that kind of thing. So far, the Bears' protection has been a quote-unquote consistent point of failure, especially in the interior on 3rd and longs. Washington needs to take advantage of that. Get your pass rush package on the field in those situations. Get Von Miller out there, all those things, and take advantage of those clear passing situations. Don't allow Caleb Williams time to find a deep receiver. That allows the cornerbacks to be more aggressive. It allows Quan Martin to maybe get the jump on a duck, on an air ball, whatever it is, potentially come up with a takeaway, or at least come up with a 3rd down stop, force the Bears to punt the ball. Speaking of keeping Caleb Williams in the pocket, we're going to identify linebacker Bobby Wagner, but really it's just getting a spy on Caleb Williams. That could be your safety that's down in the box. It could be Frankie Luvu. It could be Bobby. It could be a number of people. So we're going to say Bobby, but really it's just about having an eye on Caleb Williams and understanding the Chicago Bears offense, even though it's not as much necessarily as what Jaden Daniels does for the Washington Commanders, you still very much have to defend 11 players on this Chicago Bears offense, Caleb Williams being one of them. Again, he excels at extending plays, scrambling, doing all those, backyard football types of things. But on key third downs in the red zone, if you can contain him in the pocket, he will put the ball in jeopardy. So that's going to be a big factor. The total overall defensive X factor for this game for the Washington Commanders is going to be the turnover battle. Right now, the Washington Commanders are breaking even. They're 0-0. They've got as many giveaways as they have takeaways. Now, the good news here is they have 3 takeaways in the last 2 games. So the production has certainly picked up here in the last couple of games. But the Chicago Bears, on the other hand, are +5 in the turnover differential. Their defense absolutely thrives on takeaways. A lot of times, if they're not taking the ball away, they're giving up scores. So Jaden Daniels is always smart with the football. This Commanders offense is always smart with the football. They have to continue playing that type of football because if not, the Chicago Bears, that is how they lean on making sure they have opportunities to win games. They don't keep points off the board by stopping you. They keep points off the board by taking advantage of your mistakes and turning the ball over. Some keys to the game. To me, if Washington wins this game, it's going to be because they established a physical rushing attack. Like I said, it can be with Chris Rodriguez. It can be with Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, with Jeremy McNichols. It can be with all 3 of them. It can be with 2 of the 3. I think Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt, after what he did last week, certainly has shown, obviously, that he needs to have the ball in his hand. So he's going to get an amount of work. How much those other 2 get, that's kind of the question mark. But whatever it is, you can certainly do that. And you can even have a physical rushing attack with Deebo Samuel getting the ball on handoffs as well. Protect the football. Runners do not fumble the ball. Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt had a fumble lost last week against the Los Angeles Chargers. Learn that lesson. Remember what that felt like. Don't repeat that experience on Monday night. And of course, pass rush Caleb Williams consistently. This defense, obviously, just like any defense in the NFL, but this defense especially operates at its best when it's getting pressure on the quarterback. How does Washington lose? If it allows explosive plays down the field. We've seen it all season long. Unfortunately, we saw it a little bit against the Los Angeles Chargers, but they were able to kind of shore that up later in the game. We'll see in this game if that was a true turning of the tide or if it was just a one-game kind of experience. If it was a true turning of the tide, keep a lid on that Chicago Bears offense. Don't let DJ Moore gash you. Don't let Roma Dunze catch one of those crossers or middle passes and hit you for big yak, things like that. The Chicago Bears rush offense with DeAndre Sweat is non-existent. Don't be the defense that makes it exist, right? Don't lose the turnover battle. Every game is definitely hinges on the turnover battle in a large margin. But like I said, this Chicago Bears team, you go back to the win they just had against the Las Vegas Raiders before their Week 5 bye, and it was definitely all about the turnovers, man. Neither team wanted to win that game. Both offenses were just giving the ball away. In the end, it was Chicago Bears defense that took the ball away more than the Raiders, and that's what ended up giving them the win. And then, of course, neutralizing, like I said, that rushing attack and those second play opportunities for Caleb Williams. So the game-specific matchups and situational plans create a clear picture for fantasy football and logical tiered-based approach to betting. We'll talk about all of that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you in part by Supplies House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. We just broke down the defense's detailed plans about having the right pieces in the right places, like Bobby Wagner, watching Caleb Williams, getting your fast pass rushing package on the floor on third downs. And the same is true for any pro on the job site. You need all the parts you can trust, and you need them now. With Supply House, you can order today and see over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items on your doorstep tomorrow. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keeps you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. I love their Part Finders tool. 3D schematics can save you hours on any job. It's like having the perfect defensive scheme for a tricky formation. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free. Use the promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders is also brought to you in part by FanDuel. The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss, because right now, new customers, you can still bet just $5 and you get $300 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I'm going to give you 5 options that I picked out for you here coming up in just a little bit. What I love about FanDuel is it gives you so many ways to play. You can bet on Bobby Wagner's tackles, the defense to force a turnover, or you can build a same game parlay like I love to do using the game script that we just made. It makes watching the defensive side of the ball, the real chess match, even more exciting. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With a clear understanding of the game plan as we see it moving forward into Monday night for the Washington Commanders, we can now identify our must-start fantasy player. I'm going to give you our 5 bets of the week as we've been doing so far this season. Starting with the fantasy must-start, it's got to be running back Croskey-Merritt. Look, last week it was running back Chris Rodriguez Jr., and I'll tell you this, we had the right position, we just didn't have the right player. Not that we didn't know that Croskey-Merritt has that ceiling, has that explosiveness. They just haven't been necessarily really giving it to him as much as we wanted him to, or as much as we thought they might eventually. And until you see it happen, said this earlier in the offseason, that unfortunately he's just one of those guys. A lot of rookies are this way, that until you see the team really kind of start to believe in what this rookie can do, it's hard to sit here and say you need to start them. But we knew the Washington Commanders needed to establish the run against the Los Angeles Chargers. So at least we had that part right. This week, we also have the added information of, Croskey-Merritt. Look, if he hasn't proven that he deserves all the touches in the world, not all the touches, you still want to get Jeremy McNichols. You still want to get Chris Rodriguez Jr., if he's healthy enough, involved in the game plan. But Croskey-Merritt absolutely has to be a focal point of this offense. The game is set up for a high volume for him. I mean, look, he did what he did last week on 11 carries. I'm not saying you should expect that every single week, but this Bears defense is absolutely susceptible to running backs like him. The #1 rushing attack for a reason in the NFL, things like that. So Cliff Kingsbury said this week, quote, "When he touches the ball, good things happen," end quote. He needs to touch the ball more. Croskey-Merritt, our must start of the week for week 6 in fantasy football. So our 5 tiered bets for the Commanders versus the Bears. I'm giving you a lowest risk, low risk, risky, riskier, and the riskiest of the 5 bets. Our low risk bet is going to be Jaden Daniels, 150 plus passing yards. At the moment on FanDuel, it's got a minus 1100 line. Like I said, very low bar to clear. Even without his top receivers, there's a high probability that Jaden Daniels is going to pass for at least 150 yards. Our low risk, Zach Ertz, tight end, over 27.5 yards. And you may feel like it's a little bit higher risk than usual because of what happened last weekend, but I do believe that he'll be the primary target for Jaden Daniels, he and Deebo Samuel. And with that running game, if it gets going the way that I think it is, if the Bears linebackers continue to be as aggressive as they normally are, Zach Ertz is going to get open. He's going to have some opportunities. Our risky bet, this is our same game parlay. No, this is not our same game parlay yet. Our risky bet is Washington's first drive result being an offensive touchdown, plus 155 odds. So you can make more money than you bet on this one. It's likely the Washington Commanders are going to script their first 15 plays. Most teams do that. And I think that by the time you get down into the red zone, a play action pass, opening up a guy like Zach Ertz for a touchdown reception seems really, really likely. Riskier, this is our same game parlay. I'm stacking Croskey-Merritt to go over 50 rushing yards, Zach Ertz to go over 20 rushing yards, and I'm taking the Commanders on the money line, so just straight up to win the game in this one. That parlay gives you a plus odd, and it just kind of, to me, combines 3 of the most logical outcomes of this week's game. The riskiest is that each team will score a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown in this game. Not the highest scoring affair last time these two teams faced, but both these offenses are running at a little bit of a different clip. Both of these defenses are a little bit more susceptible than we probably like them to be on each side of the competition. So I am going to go with that as our riskiest pick of the week. And like I always promise, if I'm recommending it to you, I'm recommending it to myself. However, just like I do, please bet smart. Don't go crazy and put your entire livelihood on the line. That's going to do it for today's episode. Next time on Locked On Commanders, we will be talking live after the game from Northwest Stadium. It's going to be crazy early in the morning, so I don't blame you. If you're not already up for some reason, like you're at work or something like that, just catch it in the morning after you wake up, Monday afternoon or Monday morning or whatever it is when you have, or Tuesday morning, whenever you have time. In the meantime, if you've got questions or you've got comments, Text me directly by becoming a Locked On Commanders insider. Join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Find out what the national media thinks about the Washington Commanders and more by going to Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to this podcast for your second listen to the Everydayers. I see you. I appreciate you every day. And I thank you again for coming through today. Until next time, stay safe, be kind to one another. We'll talk again real soon right here on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.